The morning sun had just begun its ascent, spilling muted gold over the rugged peaks of the mountain range. The jagged cliffs cast long shadows over the valleys below, a landscape both beautiful and unforgiving. Sergeant Riley, a U.S. Army sniper, assigned to a Ranger reconnaissance unit, adjusted the strap of her sniper rifle and scanned the horizon through her scope. Her dark hair was tucked tightly beneath her helmet, and her eyes, sharp and focused, reflected a clarity honed over countless missions. The air was crisp and thin, each breath a reminder of the elevation, and every sound seemed amplified. A distant bird call, the whisper of wind over rock, the subtle crunch of ranger boots on gravel. Her team moved in a careful, deliberate rhythm. Each ranger understood the importance of silence in these operations. Whispered communications carried through the ranks. Strategic hand signals passed along like a secret language. Riley's fellow soldiers were seasoned and reliable, but she had a reputation for being unmatched in precision and composure under pressure. Today's mission was reconnaissance in a region that had grown increasingly hostile in the past weeks. Intelligence suggested enemy movement near a valley that could easily conceal ambushes, and the Rangers were tasked with observing and neutralizing threats before they could strike. The tension was palpable, though outwardly, every soldier appeared calm. Riley's fingers traced the contours of her rifle as she mentally reviewed calculations she had practiced 1,000 times. Wind velocity, distance, angle, bullet drop. Even in these moments of deceptive calm, her mind ran a continuous series of computations. Every detail could mean the difference between life and death. She checked her gear, ensuring her rifle was clear, her ammunition secure, and her communications functional. Her team did the same, each silently acknowledging the gravity of the situation. The mountains around them were a mix of jagged cliffs, patches of sparse vegetation, and shadowed valleys that could easily hide enemy combatants. Riley knew the terrain well. She had memorized every incline, boulder, and ravine from satellite images, maps, and previous missions. Knowledge of the land was as vital as marksmanship, and her ability to read the terrain gave her unit an edge. She crouched briefly behind a large outcropping of rock, observing the valley floor. A faint glint of metal or a slight shift in the earth could signal movement. Whispers began to circulate among the Rangers. Movement at 3,000 meters, one muttered under his breath. Riley stiffened, her eyes narrowing as she focused on the distant ridge. The enemy was always careful, trained to hide in shadows and use the terrain to their advantage. But nothing escaped Riley's gaze. She adjusted her scope, noting the subtle rise of dust in the distance and the faint glimmer of sunlight on what appeared to be a weapon. The team was alert, their senses heightened, their breathing shallow to avoid detection. Even the birds seemed to sense the tension, their calls scattered by the oppressive quiet that had fallen over the mountain range. Her mind returned to the task at hand. Each second mattered. If the enemy spotted them first, the mission could turn into a deadly engagement before any advantage could be taken. Riley's role was critical: to observe, calculate, and, if necessary, neutralize threats with precision from her concealed position. She didn't just see the battlefield. She anticipated it. Her training allowed her to predict enemy movements, to understand what they might do before they did it. Every decision she made carried the weight of the entire unit's survival. The other Rangers moved cautiously, checking the ridges and valleys with binoculars and scopes. Every step was calculated to avoid unnecessary noise, every pause intentional. A small pebble skittering down the rocks could betray their position, so they moved with the patience of predators stalking prey. Riley's breathing was steady, almost meditative, as she aligned her body with the slope of the mountain. Her rifle rested against her shoulder, scope trained on the suspected enemy position. The weapon felt like an extension of her body, a tool of lethal precision in her hands. Moments of silence stretched into minutes, each seeming longer than the last. The sun continued to rise, casting shifting shadows across the rocks and valleys. Riley observed the distant enemy lines, noting their formations and possible weaknesses. Her experience had taught her that soldiers often revealed themselves through small, almost imperceptible motions. A slight shuffle of feet, a flicker of movement against a rock, the reflective flash of a scope or weapon. She memorized every detail, storing it in her mind for the crucial moment when action would be necessary. The team moved as one unit, instinct and training guiding their movements. Each ranger relied on the others implicitly. Trust was a bond forged in rigorous training and combat experience, and in these mountains, that trust could mean the difference between survival and annihilation. Riley glanced at each teammate, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. They were ready. The enemy, hidden and unaware, would soon encounter the consequence of underestimating these rangers. As the morning wore on, a faint rustle on the ridge caught Riley's attention. She adjusted her scope and focused intently. Dust kicked up in a pattern too deliberate to be natural. Enemy scouts. The team froze, every muscle taut with anticipation. Riley's mind calculated distances, wind speed, bullet trajectory, and the time it would take for the Rangers to reach cover if they were discovered. Her pulse remained steady, but beneath the calm, a surge of adrenaline sharpened her senses. The atmosphere was charged with expectation. Even in this remote and harsh environment, there was an unspoken sense that today could change everything. Riley's eyes swept across the horizon, mapping every ridge, every valley, every shadow. She knew that soon, the quiet would shatter and the mountains would erupt with action. But until that moment, there was only the tense calm, the breath before the storm, the patient stillness of soldiers poised on the edge of combat. Riley took one final scan before positioning herself behind a large boulder overlooking the valley floor. Her rifle was steady, her scope aligned perfectly with the ridge where the enemy scouts had appeared. The Rangers settled around her, each in a vantage point that maximized cover and sight lines. The sun climbed higher, the shadows shifting, but Riley's focus never wavered. In the stillness, there was clarity, and in clarity, there was power. Every detail mattered: the angle of the sun, the wind's subtle shift, the soft sounds carried across the valleys. Today, the mountains would test them, and every ranger knew that. But Riley was ready. She had trained for this, anticipated it, and honed her body and mind to respond with precision and calm. And as the first faint signs of enemy movement flickered on the horizon, a silent promise formed in her mind. When the time came, she would act with deadly accuracy, and her team would live because of it. The calm before the storm lingered, heavy and electric, as the Rangers waited. Each second was a heartbeat, each movement a calculation, each breath a preparation. The mountains watched, silent and indifferent, as a small team of soldiers prepared to confront the unseen enemy and test their skills, courage, and resilience in a deadly dance of life and death. Riley's eyes never wavered from the distant ridge. The faintest movement caught her attention. A subtle shimmer against the rock face, almost imperceptible. She held her breath, muscles taut, as the Rangers around her mirrored her tension. Whispered alerts passed through the team. Enemy at 3,000 meters. 2 o'clock ridge. Moving left. Each Ranger's voice was barely audible, carried in muted tones that the wind would not betray. Riley's mind began a meticulous calculation. Wind speed, angle of elevation, bullet trajectory, the slope of the mountain, and the time it would take for a shot to reach its target. Every variable mattered. The valley below, shrouded in light mist, concealed more than it revealed. Dust swirled from previous enemy movements, blending into the early sunlight, making it nearly impossible to discern friend from foe at a glance. Riley adjusted the focus on her scope, zooming in carefully. She noted small shifts in position. A soldier crouching behind a boulder, another adjusting a weapon sling, the glint of sunlight reflecting off metal. Each tiny movement indicated a coordinated attempt to observe and prepare for engagement. Her fellow rangers were on high alert. Private Daniels, a keen-eyed scout, whispered from his position atop a nearby ridge. "I count 4, maybe 5. Looks like an advance patrol." Riley nodded slightly, keeping her voice low. "Watch the flank. They're moving too straight. They'll expose themselves if we're patient." The subtle hand signals exchanged between them emphasized silent coordination, a language born of years of joint operations. Every ranger understood their role: surveillance, observation, and readiness to act if the situation escalated. Riley's focus sharpened. She adjusted her position slightly behind the boulder to get a clearer line of sight while remaining hidden. Her rifle rested comfortably against her shoulder, her finger near the trigger, but not yet touching it. She visualized the trajectory in her mind, adjusting for wind that had shifted slightly since dawn. Each breath was measured, quiet, deliberate. In the distance, the enemy soldiers moved with caution, unaware of the eyes tracking their every motion from the shadows above. As the minutes passed, Riley's calculations became a mental map of the battlefield. The ridge, the valley floor, the scattered boulders, all of it factored into her strategy. She mentally noted potential escape routes, likely positions for enemy snipers, and areas where reinforcements could emerge. Every detail was cataloged for the moment they might need to act. The Rangers, hidden behind rocks and patches of vegetation, were poised for action, yet patient. They had been trained to wait, to let the enemy make the first mistakes. A faint glimmer of metal caught Riley's eye again, a weapon adjusted, a scope repositioned. The enemy was methodically scanning the terrain, unaware that their every move was being observed. Riley whispered coordinates into her radio. 2 o'clock, 3,000 meters. Height 2,450. Prepare for observation and report any advance. Her voice was steady, calm, and precise. The Rangers listened intently, their fingers twitching near triggers, bodies tensed for the slightest indication of attack. The mountain air seemed to grow heavier with anticipation. Even the wind seemed to pause, carrying only the soft sound of distant rocks shifting under the enemy's movement. Riley knew that patience was as deadly as speed. She could take the first shot now, but it was wiser to gather intelligence, assess formations, and anticipate patterns. The enemy, unaware of the sniper's gaze, continued to move with deliberate caution, unaware that the hunter was already calculating the perfect moment to strike. Private Daniels pointed subtly toward a shadowed section of the ridge where movement was less discernible. "I think there's someone trying to flank us," he whispered. Riley squinted through her scope. Indeed, a figure was creeping along the edge, attempting to scout their position while staying out of sight. The angle was difficult, the distance extreme, but Riley noted the trajectory, the wind drift, and the slope. This could be the moment that revealed the enemy's strategy, or it could be the trigger for the first shot of a long engagement. Suddenly, a rustle from below made the team freeze. Riley's pulse remained steady, but adrenaline surged just beneath her calm exterior. She shifted her weight, adjusting her scope to follow the subtle movement. A single enemy scout had ventured too far from cover, his movement betraying the larger plan. Riley whispered into her radio, "Target in open. 3 o'clock, 3,050 meters. Adjusted for wind at 8 miles per hour. Keep eyes on flank." Her fellow Rangers nodded subtly, repositioning slightly to cover angles and ensure no enemy advance could surprise them. For the next several minutes, Riley observed the enemy's patterns. They were methodical, cautious, and well-trained, but predictable under careful observation. She tracked their rotations, the way they communicated with subtle signals, and how they repositioned after every movement. Each detail strengthened her mental map, allowing her to anticipate their next step. The patience of the team and the sniper's focus created a dangerous mismatch. The enemy moved blindly, while Riley and her unit understood every motion. The tension built steadily. Dust swirled along the valley, reflecting sunlight in blinding flashes. Birds took flight, startled by the subtle shifts in the landscape. The enemy paused near a ridge, scanning the horizon. Riley held her breath, calculating, waiting for the critical moment when patience would transform into decisive action. Her team mirrored her discipline, silent but alert, ready to respond instantly if the first shot was fired. Then, a minor misstep. One enemy soldier shifted slightly, exposing the glint of his scope in the morning sun. Riley's eyes locked onto the target instantly. She noted the trajectory, calculated drop, compensated for wind, and adjusted for elevation. Every calculation she had rehearsed countless times clicked into place. But she did not fire yet. Instead, she relayed coordinates to the team and continued observing. It was a chess game, and the first strike had to be perfectly timed. Minutes stretched like hours. The enemy continued their methodical advance, unaware that they were being meticulously studied. Riley's focus never wavered. She mentally rehearsed every shot, visualized the trajectory, and calculated the potential outcomes. The team remained in position, their silent movements precise and coordinated. Each ranger understood its survival and mission success depended on the sniper's calculations and timing. Finally, the first real engagement began to loom. Riley could sense the moment approaching, the invisible threshold between observation and action. The enemy's pattern of movement suggested they were about to consolidate positions, unaware that the eyes above had already charted every path. Riley's finger hovered near the trigger, her mind clear, every variable accounted for. The valley below was about to erupt, and when it did, her team would rely on her deadly precision to turn the tide in their favor. In that tense stillness, the mountains seemed to hold their breath, the wind paused, and time itself seemed to slow. Riley's eyes scanned, calculated, and waited. The first glimpse of danger had appeared, and the first decisive action was imminent. The calm before the storm had ended. The moment of deadly clarity had arrived, and every second from here on would demand unwavering focus, courage, and lethal precision. The silence shattered like glass. A distant explosion echoed through the valley, sending clouds of dust and smoke spiraling into the crisp morning air. The shockwave rattled loose pebbles down the mountain slopes, alerting every ranger to the sudden escalation. Riley's heart remained steady, her training taking over. Instantly, she adjusted her position behind a boulder, pressing her body low while scanning the smoke-filled battlefield through her scope. The enemy had made the first move, and now the real test of precision, patience, and nerve had begun. Rifle fire crackled across the valley as the enemy attempted to suppress the Rangers' observation posts. Bullets ricocheted off rocks, kicking up sparks and dust. Riley observed carefully, her eyes picking out shapes moving unpredictably through the smoke. She could see figures crouching, sprinting, and disappearing behind cover. Yet every movement fed her mind a map of enemy strategy. The air was thick with the acrid smell of gunpowder, and every inhalation reminded her that death could be only seconds away. Yet she remained calm, a silent observer calculating every risk, every shot, every variable. Her team moved with the efficiency born of rigorous training. Private Daniels slid to a vantage point atop a nearby ridge, rifle poised, eyes scanning. Sergeant Cortez, the unit leader, barked concise instructions. Suppress at will. Cover the flanks. Stay low. Every ranger executed without hesitation, each motion deliberate, almost choreographed, despite the chaos erupting below. Riley's calm contrasted with the chaos. Where bullets whistled and explosions shattered the terrain, she was a study in controlled focus. The battlefield was unpredictable, but she had trained for unpredictability, and it gave her an edge. Through the smoke, Riley noted subtle hints of movement. A glimmer of metal, the shifting of a shadow. A sudden disturbance in the dust all signals that the enemy had underestimated their adversaries. She whispered coordinates to her team. Enemy advancing North Ridge. 2 o'clock. Cover that approach. The Rangers adjusted accordingly, their movement silent yet precise. The enemy thought they had the advantage, but Riley's observation and strategic foresight had already charted their every step. Her calculations were not merely numbers. They were the difference between life and death for her team. The smoke created a surreal battlefield. Figures appeared and vanished like phantoms, the valley a haze of shadows and gunfire. Riley crawled carefully along the rocky terrain, keeping her body low and her rifle aimed. Every inch of movement was deliberate. Even a minor mistake could betray her position. She relied on the contours of the rocks, natural depressions, and patches of vegetation to conceal her presence. Her sniper rifle rested against her shoulder, and her finger hovered near the trigger. Her mind ran a continuous set of calculations: distance, wind, elevation, the bullet's arc, and the enemy's likely reaction. Suddenly, a mortar shell struck nearby, sending a plume of dust and debris into the air. Riley ducked instinctively, pressing herself against the uneven ground. The Rangers adjusted their formation, creating a defensive perimeter, but Riley's focus remained unbroken. The enemy was attempting to disorient and divide the team, yet the sniper's mind was methodical. She assessed their positions, noted exposed figures, and identified potential escape routes. This battlefield, chaotic as it was a chessboard, and she was already thinking several moves ahead. Riley noticed movement along the eastern ridge. One enemy soldier had broken from cover, trying to flank the Rangers while remaining obscured by smoke. She calculated the angle, compensated for the wind, and prepared to engage, but she waited. Patience was a weapon in itself. The Rangers depended on her to make the first decisive strike, and timing was critical. Every observation, every calculation mattered more than the impulse to fire. The enemy soldier moved cautiously, unaware of the predator above him. Meanwhile, Cortez coordinated the unit's defensive maneuvers. Hold positions. Keep suppressing fire. Watch for reinforcements. The Rangers' fire erupted intermittently, targeted and precise, keeping the enemy cautious and preventing them from gaining momentum. Riley adjusted her scope, mapping each position as she mentally rehearsed potential shots. Even amidst chaos, her mind was calm, methodical. She considered wind direction, elevation, bullet drop, and every environmental factor that could affect her next move. The smoke thickened, curling like a living entity across the valley. Visibility dropped, and shadows merged into shapes that might be real or imagined. Riley remained patient, her breathing steady, scanning every possible angle. One glance could expose a target. One miscalculation could endanger her team. Yet in this uncertainty, she found clarity. The enemy had overextended, moving too far without securing cover. It was the perfect moment. She whispered coordinates. Target in open. Ridge 3. Focus fire there. The team adjusted seamlessly, trusting her calculations. Her mind raced through contingencies. What if the enemy spotted her? What if reinforcements appeared? She calculated escape routes, fallback positions, and angles of cover. Every scenario was accounted for before she even lifted her rifle. This was not just about firing a shot. It was about shaping the battlefield, creating advantage from chaos, and ensuring her team's survival. Each moment demanded precision. Each second weighed heavy with consequence. From her concealed vantage, Riley observed another enemy figure stepping into a narrow opening in the smoke. The distance was extreme, but she had already accounted for the variables: wind, elevation, bullet velocity. She breathed slowly, stabilizing her rifle. The chaos around her faded, replaced by clarity. Her focus was absolute. The world had narrowed to the enemy, the rifle, and the mathematics of survival. The first strike had to be perfect, for it would determine the rhythm of the engagement that followed. The Rangers moved as a unit, covering each other while maintaining concealment. Fire erupted from multiple points, bullets ricocheting off rocks, and the air was filled with the sharp scent of gunpowder. Yet Riley remained patient. She waited for the enemy to expose themselves fully, allowing for precision over rash action. Her team's trust allowed her this patience. Every member understood that her first shot would guide the engagement, dictate the pace, and create opportunity for the Rangers to advance, or suppress, or suppressively. The battlefield seemed suspended in tension. Smoke curled, dust shifted, and the enemy's cautious movements created a rhythm for Riley to follow. Every shift of the wind, every echo of movement, every glimmer of light mattered. She calculated, observed, and waited. Her patience was more lethal than any immediate action. Then, a pivotal moment. One enemy soldier fully emerged from cover, unknowingly stepping into a calculated line of sight. Riley adjusted for wind, distance, and angle. Her finger hovered on the trigger. The first shot, precise and decisive, would change the course of this engagement. The calm observation, the meticulous calculations, and the trust of her team had set the stage. Smoke and shadows masked the battlefield. Chaos reigned, but Riley's eyes pierced through the uncertainty. The first decisive moment was imminent, and when it came, it would mark the beginning of a battle defined by precision, courage, and the deadly skill of a sniper who thrived in the storm. The smoke hung thick across the valley, curling around jagged boulders and weaving through the sparse trees like a living shroud. Visibility was poor, the air thick with dust and the acrid smell of gunpowder. The enemy forces below moved cautiously, unaware that above them, hidden in the rocky crags, a silent observer calculated every step, every heartbeat. Sergeant Riley adjusted her sniper rifle, her fingers steady and deliberate, as she traced the outline of a target exposed in the murky haze. Today, every calculation mattered more than ever. The lives of her team depended on her precision. For weeks, Riley had trained for moments like this. Years of experience had taught her that patience, discipline, and focus were the greatest weapons a sniper could wield. She breathed slowly, measured, allowing the rhythm of her heartbeat to synchronize with the shifting smoke and the subtle movements of the enemy below. A single miscalculation could compromise not just her safety, but the survival of every Ranger in the vicinity. She double-checked her sight alignment, adjusted for wind and elevation, and mentally rehearsed the sequence of shots she might need to take. Below, an enemy soldier moved from cover to cover, scanning the terrain, attempting to locate the Rangers. Riley's scope caught the glint of sunlight reflecting off his helmet. Her team remained silent, watching, holding their positions, trusting her judgment implicitly. This was more than shooting. It was command through precision. With a whispered alert to her squad, 2 o'clock ridge, target moving, the Rangers tightened their positions, adjusting for cover and lining up support fire if necessary. Every Ranger's movement was coordinated, choreographed in the chaos, a testament to rigorous training and trust. Riley steadied herself behind the natural lip of a boulder, her body low, rifle ready. The first target, the enemy soldier who had carelessly exposed himself, was within optimal range. She exhaled slowly, letting the shot align with the calculations she had rehearsed countless times. The surrounding chaos, the gunfire, ricocheting bullets, and smoke blurred to the periphery. Her focus narrowed to a single point, the target, the trajectory, the moment. With a calm, controlled squeeze of the trigger, the first shot rang out, precise and decisive. The soldier collapsed, and the enemy formation faltered, startled by the unexpected strike. Below, confusion rippled through the enemy ranks. Some ducked for cover. Others scanned frantically, trying to determine the source of the sniper fire. Riley did not pause. She quickly realigned her scope, observing the reactions, tracking movements, and identifying the next threat. Her second shot found another enemy attempting to flank her team, neutralizing him before he could gain a strategic position. Each shot was calculated, deliberate, and deadly accurate. Even amidst explosions and the chaos of battle, Riley maintained absolute composure, a study in controlled precision under pressure. The Rangers responded immediately to the advantage she had created. They advanced carefully, using smoke and terrain for cover, while Riley provided suppressive and targeted fire. The first strikes had shifted momentum. The enemy's confidence faltered, their formation disorganized. Riley's mind raced through contingencies, which targets to prioritize, which flanking movements to anticipate, and how to keep her team safe while maintaining lethal oversight of the battlefield. Every calculation was a thread in a tapestry of survival, woven in real time under fire. The smoke continued to obscure and disorient. Riley's keen eyes traced movement, noting a group attempting to consolidate positions near a rocky outcrop. She adjusted for distance, wind speed, and slope, calculating bullet drop over the 3,000 meters, separating her from the target. Her team watched and waited, knowing her judgment would determine their next steps. Then, with precise timing, she fired, and the enemy leader crumpled, throwing his squad into disarray. The Rangers seized the opportunity, advancing while the opposition scrambled to recover. Amid the chaos, Riley remained methodical. Each enemy movement was observed, each shot carefully considered. The battlefield was alive with uncertainty, explosions, ricochets, and smoke created a constant threat, but she operated as though above it all, a silent predator in control of the tempo. Her rifle was an extension of herself, each shot flowing seamlessly from calculation to execution. Even as her team moved to cover, she maintained her position, providing continuous surveillance and lethal intervention as needed. The enemy attempted to regroup, but their efforts were disorganized and ineffective. Riley anticipated their strategies, predicting retreat routes and weak points in their defense. With coordinated signals to her team, suppressive fire and sniper precision forced the opposition into defensive positions, limiting their options and reducing the threat to her squad. The Rangers' confidence grew as they witnessed the impact of her expertise. In the midst of chaos, her calm and deadly precision became a rallying point for the team. Riley's thoughts occasionally flicked to the human cost of the engagement. Every enemy soldier, every movement, carried consequences. Yet, in that moment, action was necessary, precision was paramount, and hesitation could mean death. Her professional detachment was not cruelty. It was survival, training, and discipline manifesting under extreme conditions. The smoke, the dust, the bullets all were part of the environment she mastered, the landscape she navigated with skill honed over years of rigorous training and experience. By mid-morning, the battlefield had shifted dramatically. The enemy was disorganized, cautious, and demoralized. Riley's first decisive actions had created a window for her Rangers to advance strategically, secure cover, and take control of key terrain features. Every shot, every observation, every calculation had contributed to the shift. The smoke began to thin, revealing a battlefield littered with the consequences of precise sniper fire and coordinated Ranger tactics. Her team, inspired and motivated by her performance, executed coordinated movements with precision and care. They advanced carefully, suppressing enemy positions, ensuring that every step forward was secure. Riley's eyes remained vigilant, scanning the battlefield for signs of counterattack or hidden threats. Her calmness inspired the unit. Each ranger trusted her judgment implicitly, relying on her guidance to navigate the chaos. As the smoke began to clear, Riley assessed the battlefield. Enemy forces were in retreat, disoriented and shaken. The first engagement had ended, but vigilance remained essential. She adjusted her position slightly, maintaining cover while observing potential escape routes and positions where the enemy might regroup. Her rifle rested comfortably in her hands, her scope sweeping the valley, calculating, ready for the next decisive action if needed. In that moment, the battlefield seemed to settle, though tension remained taut like a drawn bowstring. Riley's focus never wavered. She had emerged from the smoke, taken precise and deadly action, and shifted the momentum in favor of her team. The Rangers knew they had witnessed the impact of skill, experience, and courage combined into a single decisive force. And while the battle was far from over, Riley's emergence and precision had set the stage for victory. The valley erupted into chaos. The enemy, shaken but not defeated, regrouped quickly, returning fire from concealed positions among rocks and sparse foliage. Bullets zipped past, ricocheting against stone and kicking up clouds of dust around the Rangers. Riley pressed herself low behind a boulder, rifle ready, eyes scanning for threats in the smoke-filled landscape. Her pulse was steady, but every nerve was alert. This was the moment when calm precision would meet raw aggression. Every move the enemy made was calculated, and Riley had to anticipate each one to keep her team alive. The enemy fired intermittently, attempting to suppress the Rangers' movements while probing for weaknesses in their formation. One round struck dangerously close to Private Daniels, who froze before diving for cover behind a large rock. Sergeant Cortez barked rapid-fire instructions. Suppressing fire. Watch your sectors. Don't let them flank us. Every Ranger moved with practiced precision, adjusting positions, laying down cover, and communicating silently with subtle hand signals. Riley's mind ran a continuous calculation, tracking every bullet trajectory, every exposed enemy figure, and every safe line for her next shot. Through the smoke, she spotted the enemy trying to advance along the north ridge. Their movements were cautious but deliberate, each step calculated to find gaps in the Rangers' defenses. Riley adjusted her scope and mentally calculated wind drift, bullet drop, and elevation. One wrong judgment could expose her, or worse, leave a teammate vulnerable. She noted the enemy positions and whispered into her radio, 2 o'clock ridge. 2 moving toward the boulder line. Focus fire, suppress, and hold. The team responded seamlessly, the sound of synchronized fire echoing across the valley. Suddenly, an enemy sniper opened fire from a concealed position on the eastern ridge. Bullets struck near the Rangers, throwing gravel into the air and forcing the team to duck and reposition. Riley's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with clarity. She traced the trajectory, noting the angle and distance. She whispered, "Sniper at 3,100 meters, East Ridge. Elevation 2,460. Suppress and hold position. I'll take the shot." Her team adjusted, providing cover while Riley prepared for a high-stakes counterattack that required perfect precision. The firefight escalated. Smoke mingled with dust and the acrid scent of gunpowder, creating a chaotic haze. Riley moved slowly, adjusting her position inch by inch, ensuring that she remained concealed while maintaining line of sight on multiple targets. The enemy attempted flanking maneuvers, using rocky outcrops and shadows to advance. Riley's sharp eyes caught subtle shifts, the tilt of a helmet, a glint of sunlight on a weapon, the faint rustle of movement. Each detail fed into her calculations, guiding her next shots and the Rangers' movements. Amid the chaos, one Ranger was hit. Private Daniels cried out, clutching his shoulder, his movement drawing fire. Cortez shouted orders, coordinating suppression, while Riley prepared a shot that would neutralize the immediate threat. She adjusted her scope, compensating for wind and distance, and fired. The enemy soldier advancing on Daniels fell, neutralized before he could inflict more harm. The Rangers quickly dragged Daniels to cover, stabilizing him while maintaining defensive fire. The battlefield was lethal, chaotic, and unforgiving, but coordination and precision kept the Rangers alive. Riley's thoughts ran faster than the bullets zipping around her. Every shot had to count. Every movement was analyzed. The enemy was adapting, trying to anticipate the Rangers' positions, but Riley anticipated their tactics in return. She coordinated with her team through subtle signals, directing fire, prioritizing targets, and suppressing enemy advances. Each shot she fired, each calculation she made, was a thread in a larger tapestry designed to control the battlefield and keep her team alive. One group of enemy soldiers attempted to consolidate near a rocky outcrop on the south ridge. Riley's mind calculated the timing, angle, and trajectory needed to disrupt their formation. She fired twice, precise, measured, and deadly. The soldiers hit the ground, disoriented, their advance halted. Cortez seized the opportunity, leading the team to maneuver into better positions, advancing cautiously while maintaining cover. Riley's eyes never left the battlefield, tracking movement, adjusting calculations, and preparing for the next threat. Explosions punctuated the air as grenades detonated among enemy positions, forcing them into defensive postures. Riley remained calm, her focus absolute. She noted the shifting smoke, the positions of her team, and the remaining threats. Each second mattered. Every decision could result in life or death. The Rangers moved like a single organism, reacting to her guidance and the ever-changing battlefield conditions. Riley's role was pivotal. A sniper who was also a commander in observation, directing movements and shaping the engagement with precision and foresight. The enemy was relentless, launching another flanking maneuver from the northeast. Bullets tore past, striking dangerously close to rocks near Riley's position. She calculated, adjusted, and fired 2 shots that neutralized the immediate threat. The Rangers advanced while the enemy scrambled to regroup. The momentum had shifted again, but the danger remained palpable. Riley's eyes scanned constantly, tracking smoke, movement, and glimmers of exposed soldiers. The battlefield was dynamic, chaotic, and deadly, but she moved with methodical precision, a calm force guiding the team. Hours seemed to compress into minutes. Sweat and dust coated every surface, the smell of gunpowder thick in the air. The Rangers held their positions while advancing strategically, the enemy now cautious and hesitant. Riley continued firing with deadly accuracy, each shot calculated and precise, suppressing enemy advances and protecting her team. Even as her body grew tired, her mind remained sharp, processing every detail, predicting every move, and adjusting every calculation in real time. By mid-afternoon, the intensity of the firefight began to shift. The enemy had suffered losses, and their momentum was broken. Riley's precision, combined with the Rangers' coordinated efforts, had turned the tide. Yet vigilance remained essential. A single misstep could undo everything. Her eyes remained on the battlefield, scanning for the slightest movement, ready to provide lethal intervention if necessary. The enemy had struck back, but the Rangers, guided by her skill and focus, had weathered the assault. The valley, once shrouded in tension and chaos, began to quiet slightly. The enemy's organized attacks were failing, and their morale seemed fractured. Riley, still concealed behind her boulder, adjusted her scope and surveyed the battlefield. Her team was alert but stable, casualties minimal thanks to strategic positioning and her precise coverage. Smoke lingered, dust settled, but the threat of further attack remained, keeping everyone on edge. The Rangers had survived the counterattack, but the battle was far from over. Riley's mind reviewed the engagement so far. Enemy strategies, their movements, the timing of attacks, and her team's responses. Each detail was catalogued, analyzed, and prepared for the next phase. Even amidst adrenaline, fear, and the chaos of combat, her mind remained sharp, disciplined, and clear. The Rangers had survived because of teamwork, preparation, and her unflinching precision. And while the enemy had struck back fiercely, the sniper's vigilance and strategic guidance had maintained the upper hand. The smoke had begun to thin, revealing the ravaged valley below. Debris littered the terrain, and scattered patches of cover marked where enemy soldiers had fallen or sought refuge. Riley's sharp eyes scanned the chaos, noting positions, movements, and patterns that could reveal the next critical opportunity. She spotted him, an enemy officer, coordinating his forces from a ridge, gesturing with forceful movements, shouting orders that carried through the haze. This was the pivot point she had been waiting for. Neutralizing him could shatter enemy cohesion and tilt the battlefield in the Rangers' favor. Riley quickly relayed coordinates to Sergeant Cortez, her voice calm but urgent. Enemy leader, Ridge 3, 3,050 meters. Height 2,470. 2 visible. Prepare to cover my shot. The team adjusted instantly, shifting positions slightly to maintain cover and ensure suppressive fire if needed. Each Ranger trusted Riley's judgment implicitly. Her precision and judgment had already proven invaluable in the firefight. Every second counted, and the opportunity to strike this decisive blow could not be wasted. The enemy officer remained confident, unaware of the hidden eyes observing every movement. Riley calculated the distance, wind drift, elevation, and bullet trajectory. The slope of the ridge and the open exposure of the target created a narrow but precise window for action. Her finger hovered near the trigger, and her mind visualized the bullet's path as if rehearsing it in real time. One shot, perfectly timed, could shift the momentum irrevocably. She exhaled slowly, centering herself amid the chaos of battle, where gunfire and smoke created an almost surreal battlefield. Moments passed like hours. The enemy tried to reorganize, shouting to regroup, unaware of the sniper's calculated observation. Riley's scope tracked every movement, every gesture, every exposed vulnerability. She mentally rehearsed contingencies. What if the leader moved, if reinforcements arrived, or if a flanking unit attempted to exploit a perceived weakness? Her calculations encompassed it all, every shot, every movement, every possible reaction catalogued in real time. Patience was the weapon. Precision was the execution. Then the moment arrived. The enemy leader stepped fully into view, gesturing emphatically to his troops. Riley aligned her scope with perfect precision, factoring in wind gusts, slope, and elevation. Her fingers squeezed the trigger gently. The first shot true, and the officer collapsed, disrupting command and throwing the enemy formation into disarray. Chaos rippled immediately. Soldiers hesitated, scattered, and searched desperately for guidance that no longer existed. The battle had turned in a single, decisive instant. The Rangers seized the advantage. Cortez led a cautious but coordinated advance, using the disoriented enemy's confusion to secure better positions and cover. Riley continued providing lethal observation and precise sniper fire, targeting enemy soldiers attempting to regroup or flank her team. Each shot was calculated, each movement intentional, and every action reinforced the tactical dominance the Rangers now held. The enemy, once aggressive and confident, was now reacting defensively, scrambling to regain control. Riley remained composed, a calm eye amidst the storm. She noted enemy movements, predicting their next steps with uncanny accuracy. Reinforcements attempted to advance along the ridges, but each movement was observed, calculated, and countered with suppressive or lethal precision. The Rangers followed her lead, advancing carefully while minimizing exposure. Every decision Riley made maintained the upper hand and ensured that her team could exploit the enemy's momentary disorganization. The battlefield had shifted. The enemy was fractured, hesitant, and their morale faltering. Riley identified key targets, guiding her team's fire and movement to exploit gaps, maintain control of terrain, and prevent a counterattack. Every bullet she fired, every observation she made, strengthened her team's position. Even amidst smoke, dust, and the lingering stench of gunpowder, her focus remained unshakable. Each calculation mattered. Each second of hesitation could be the difference between control and chaos. One squad of enemy soldiers attempted to consolidate near a rocky outcrop on the southern ridge. Riley calculated timing, trajectory, and wind adjustments, firing 2 precise shots that disrupted their formation. The Rangers advanced under her cover, maintaining momentum and seizing control of the ridge. The enemy struggled to recover from the unexpected precision, and the valley seemed to bend to Riley's command. Her presence, observation, and skill had shifted the battlefield entirely. Cortez moved through the team, coordinating their advance. Hold positions. Cover flanks. Push forward only with suppression. Riley's whispers into the comms ensured that every ranger knew the priority targets, safe zones, and potential threats. Her calm precision acted as both guidance and a morale anchor. Even the most junior soldiers understood that her calculations were the difference between survival and disaster. The enemy's countermeasures were frantic but ineffective. Attempts to flank or regroup were immediately countered by her disciplined observation and precise fire. The combination of intelligence, experience, and lethal skill maintained the Rangers' advantage. Every movement by the enemy was anticipated, every gap exploited. The valley that had once threatened to overwhelm them was now under the Rangers' control, guided by Riley's vigilance and tactical acumen. The tide of battle had decisively shifted. The enemy's leadership was disrupted, their soldiers scattered, and their offensive capability diminished. Riley continued scanning, covering every approach, ready to eliminate threats before they could endanger her team. The Rangers advanced with coordination and confidence, emboldened by the sniper's calculated precision. The valley, once chaotic and dangerous, had become a landscape in which the Rangers dictated terms, exploiting the enemy's hesitation and disorganization. As the dust settled slightly and smoke began to thin, Riley allowed herself a brief moment to assess the battlefield. Her team was positioned strategically, covering key ridges and valleys. Enemy forces were fragmented, demoralized, and in retreat. The sniper's decisive strike had not only removed the enemy leader, but had shattered the cohesion of their entire formation. Victory was within reach, yet vigilance remained paramount. Riley's focus remained unwavering. Any lapse could still be fatal. Her mind cataloged every detail of the engagement. Enemy movements, key vulnerabilities, successful shots, and areas requiring continued observation. The battlefield had been turned in favor of the Rangers through a combination of tactical patience, precision marksmanship, and coordinated team movement. Riley's role was pivotal. Her skill had transformed a potentially deadly confrontation into a controlled and manageable engagement. Her presence and calculations had dictated the outcome, demonstrating the critical importance of discipline, observation, and lethal precision. By late afternoon, the valley had become quiet relative to the chaos that had erupted hours earlier. The enemy, now fractured and retreating, had lost momentum entirely. Riley continued scanning, ensuring no hidden threats remained. The Rangers had gained control, holding key positions and securing the terrain. Her decisive action in eliminating the enemy leader had created a turning point, shift in the battlefield that ensured her team's survival and mission success. In that tense quiet, Riley reflected briefly on the consequences of the battle. Every life taken, every decision made under pressure, had consequences. Yet, through skill, observation, and courage, the Rangers had endured. Her actions had not only protected her comrades, but had ensured that the enemy could no longer operate effectively. The turning point had been achieved, and the balance of power now lay firmly with the Rangers. The valley, once a battlefield of chaos and smoke, was now eerily quiet. Dust and debris settled slowly, and the acrid smell of gunpowder lingered in the crisp mountain air. Riley lowered her rifle slightly, scanning the terrain one last time to ensure no threats remained hidden among rocks or vegetation. Her team cautiously moved through the valley, securing key positions and checking for any enemy soldiers who might still pose a danger. Every movement was careful, deliberate, a stark contrast to the violent chaos that had unfolded just hours earlier. Private Daniels, still wincing from his earlier wound, was helped by a medic to a more secure position. Riley's eyes softened briefly as she watched her teammate receive attention. Despite the heat of battle, the Rangers had minimized casualties, and every life saved was a testament to their discipline, teamwork, and her precision in eliminating the most critical threats. Cortez moved among the team, giving concise, measured instructions and ensuring that all Rangers were accounted for. The calm after the storm was tense. Nobody let their guard down too quickly. Riley crouched behind a boulder, her rifle still in hand, reflecting on the engagement. The enemy had been well-trained, coordinated, and aggressive, yet the Rangers' patience, discipline, and strategic positioning had turned the tide. Her precise actions, the elimination of the enemy officer, and the subsequent targeting of advancing soldiers had been pivotal. The battlefield was littered with reminders of the chaos, but her calculations and steady focus had transformed a potentially devastating scenario into a controlled victory. The team systematically swept the valley. Each ridge and boulder was checked for hidden threats. The Rangers moved in pairs, covering each other, their eyes sharp despite fatigue. Riley's leadership, though silent and subtle, had guided the team throughout the battle. Her observations and precision fire had dictated the pace of the engagement, forcing the enemy into reactive positions and leaving her squad with strategic control. As the sun climbed higher, the valley began to take on an almost peaceful appearance, belying the violence that had taken place just hours before. Medics worked quickly, tending to minor injuries while assessing the serious ones. Riley assisted briefly, offering support and keeping a watchful eye on the perimeter. Even now, she knew complacency could be fatal. Every shadow, every movement, could conceal hidden threats. Yet there was a sense of cautious relief among the Rangers. The enemy was in retreat, and the immediate danger had passed. The valley was now a controlled environment, a testament to their teamwork and the precision of their actions. As the Rangers regrouped, Cortez called a brief assembly. He surveyed the team, noting their weariness but also the resilience etched in their faces. "We held the valley," he said firmly. "Everyone did their part, and we minimized casualties. But remember, the mission isn't over until we're out of this area. Stay alert." Riley listened quietly, acknowledging the order with a slight nod. The discipline and focus of her team had been remarkable, yet she knew vigilance was as critical now as it had been during the firefight. Riley moved through the team, checking on each Ranger, offering words of reassurance where needed. Fatigue weighed heavily, but the spirit of the unit remained intact. They had faced a well-trained, determined enemy and survived through skill, patience, and precise execution. She allowed herself a brief moment of introspection. War was chaotic, unpredictable, and brutal, yet moments of clarity and precision could shape outcomes. Her calculations, her patience, and her unwavering focus had saved lives today. The valley slowly transformed from a war zone into a secured position. Rangers gathered supplies, reassessed their positions, and documented the aftermath. Riley walked along the ridge lines, scanning for any overlooked threats, her rifle ready, but her movements calmer than during the height of battle. Her mind cataloged every detail of the engagement, enemy formations, points of weakness, and lessons learned for future operations. Each observation was a data point, reinforcing her role not just as a sniper, but as a tactical coordinator and guardian of her team. As evening approached, the sun cast long shadows across the valley. The Rangers began to set up temporary positions for the night, establishing observation posts and secure perimeters. Riley ensured that all angles were covered and that no area was left vulnerable. Her team followed her guidance implicitly, trusting her judgment after the day's harrowing events. There was a quiet camaraderie in the group, forged through shared danger and mutual reliance. Every ranger understood that survival had depended on precision, patience, and trust in one another. Riley took a moment alone atop a ridge, looking over the valley she had helped secure. The scene was both haunting and beautiful. The jagged rocks, dust settling in the last rays of sunlight, and the faint trails of smoke from the earlier engagement. She reflected on the cost of battle, the lives lost, and the lives saved. Each calculation she had made, each shot fired, had consequences, some immediate, some lingering. And yet, she understood that her role required this discipline, this clarity, and this acceptance of responsibility. The team settled for the night, maintaining a watchful presence over the valley. Riley checked on her fellow rangers one last time, ensuring that everyone was accounted for and that security measures were in place. As darkness fell, the valley became a quiet landscape of vigilance. She allowed herself a brief exhale, acknowledging the day's victories and challenges. The battle had been won, but the weight of responsibility and the lessons of the engagement would remain with her long after the smoke cleared. Riley's mind replayed key moments of the firefight: the first shot that disrupted the enemy's formation, the elimination of the officer that shattered their command, and the coordination with her team that ensured minimal casualties. Every decision, every calculation, and every act of precision had shaped the outcome. The valley, now quiet and under their control, stood as a testament to skill, discipline, and teamwork. And while the physical battle was over, the mental and emotional toll of combat lingered, reminding Riley and her team of the stakes they faced in every mission. As the Rangers rested under the faint starlight, Riley reflected on the journey of the day, the anticipation before the engagement, the chaos of battle, and the satisfaction of achieving control through precision and coordination. Every Ranger had contributed, yet her role as a sniper and observer had been pivotal. The balance of life and death, chaos and order, rested on her ability to remain calm, focused, and decisive. The lessons of today would carry forward, shaping every decision, every action, and every mission to come. Night had fully settled over the valley, transforming the jagged terrain into deep shadows and subtle silhouettes. The Rangers had secured positions, and the enemy had retreated into the distant mountains. Their morale, shattered by the precise strikes and coordinated tactics that Riley had orchestrated. Yet vigilance remained essential. Every shadow could conceal a lingering threat, every noise a potential hazard. Riley moved through the perimeter, rifle in hand, checking the positions of her team, ensuring that all angles were covered and that no detail was overlooked. The extraction plan was in motion. Helicopters would arrive shortly to evacuate the team and consolidate intelligence gathered during the mission. Until then, the Rangers remained alert, maintaining a defensive posture despite exhaustion. Riley allowed herself a moment to breathe, her mind reviewing the day's events in meticulous detail. The engagement had been intense, chaotic, and dangerous, but her calculations, patience, and focus had guided the team to a decisive victory. Every ranger's trust in her had been validated through action, and she felt the weight of responsibility settle in her chest. The distant thrum of approaching helicopters brought a mixture of relief and renewed focus. Riley moved to the extraction point, coordinating with Cortez to ensure a smooth and safe evacuation. The team followed orders methodically, their movements disciplined despite fatigue and adrenaline still coursing through their veins. Riley's eyes scanned the surroundings as they approached the pickup zone, noting any potential threats, escape routes, and safe zones. Every detail mattered. The mission was not over until they were safely extracted. As the helicopters touched down, the team loaded supplies, secured wounded personnel, and prepared to depart. Riley's mind remained sharp, reviewing enemy positions one last time, confirming that no threats remained to jeopardize the extraction. Each ranger moved with quiet efficiency, a testament to their rigorous training, discipline, and trust in one another. The valley that had been a battlefield of chaos and smoke was now calm, the consequences of the day etched into every ridge and boulder. Once airborne, the helicopters carried the rangers away from the valley, the fading glow of fire and dust behind them. Riley sat silently, scanning the terrain from above, reflecting on the sequence of events that had unfolded. The first moments of the engagement, the anticipation, the observation, and the first decisive shots had set the tone for the entire battle. Her focus, discipline, and precise action had created opportunity for the Rangers to maneuver, advance, and secure the valley with minimal casualties. Riley allowed herself a moment of introspection. The battle had demanded everything: patience, courage, skill, and the ability to remain calm under extreme pressure. She thought of each teammate, every calculation, and every shot that had turned the tide of engagement. The enemy had been well trained and dangerous, but her ability to anticipate movements, control the tempo of battle, and act with lethal precision had been decisive. Every life saved, every position secured, was a testament to discipline, training, and focus. The team began documenting the engagement, compiling observations, enemy positions, and tactical insights for future operations. Riley contributed detailed notes, her perspective as the sniper providing invaluable information about enemy strategy, movements, and weaknesses. The extraction had not only saved lives, but also preserved intelligence that could prevent future casualties. Her role as observer, tactician, and precise marksman had created a multifaceted advantage that extended beyond the immediate battlefield. As night deepened, Riley's thoughts drifted to the human cost of combat. She had taken lives, each shot deliberate and calculated. Yet, the alternative hesitation, lack of precision, could have resulted in far greater loss, including the lives of her teammates. The duality of war weighed heavily: action for survival, precision for control, and discipline for the protection of others. The valley below, now a distant memory in the glow of the helicopter's lights, stood as a testament to both danger and skill, chaos and control. The Rangers remained vigilant, even in flight. Riley coordinated with Cortez to review potential threats en route, ensuring that nothing was left to chance. Their mission had succeeded, but the principles of discipline, focus, and readiness remained paramount. Every Ranger understood that extraction was a phase as critical as the engagement itself. Riley's calm and precise leadership continued to inspire confidence, maintaining cohesion and focus despite exhaustion. When the helicopters reached their destination, the Rangers disembarked, receiving medical evaluation, debriefing, and recognition for their performance under fire. Riley moved through the process with quiet composure, aware of the immense responsibility she had carried throughout the engagement. Her precision, patience, and tactical insight had not only guided the team, but had ensured the successful execution of the mission. The consequences of every decision, every shot, and every observation were clear, leaving an indelible mark on her and her team. Later, as the team debriefed in a secure facility, Riley reflected on the engagement from beginning to end. The enemy's approach, the smoke-filled chaos, the counterattacks, and the turning point, the elimination of their leader, had all been pivotal moments in a high-stakes operation. Every second, every calculation, every moment of patience had culminated in the successful securing of the valley. Her role as a sniper had been both lethal and protective, guiding her team through danger with precision and discipline. Even after the battle, the emotional and mental weight lingered. Riley understood that the skills, focus, and courage required in combat were not only tools for survival, but also lessons in discipline, observation, and human resilience. Each shot had consequences. Each decision carried responsibility, and every member of the team had contributed to the outcome. The extraction and safe return were celebrations of survival, skill, and teamwork, but also solemn reminders of the stakes inherent in each mission. In the quiet moments following the debrief, Riley sat alone, reviewing maps, photographs, and notes from the engagement. She reflected on the combination of anticipation, observation, and precision that had defined her role. The sniper's perspective had shaped the battle, creating opportunity, dictating tempo, and safeguarding her team. Every calculation, every moment of patience, and every precise action had contributed to the outcome. The valley, once a site of danger, was now a testament to strategy, skill, and resilience. As night gave way to early morning, Riley stood outside, looking toward the distant mountains. The battlefield was behind her, yet the lessons of the engagement would remain. She had emerged from the smoke, observed with clarity, and acted with deadly precision. The Rangers had survived, the enemy had been disrupted, and the mission had been successfully completed. Yet the experience would linger ingrained in memory, shaping every future action and reinforcing the importance of discipline, focus, and trust in one another. Finally, Riley allowed herself a moment of stillness. The adrenaline faded, replaced by reflection and quiet satisfaction. The valley had been secured, the team had survived, and every calculation, observation, and action had contributed to that success. She knew that future missions would demand the same precision, courage, and patience. But in that moment, with the mission complete, Riley allowed herself to acknowledge the magnitude of what had been achieved. A battle survived, lives preserved, and the relentless application of skill and discipline vindicated in the harshest of environments. The Rangers prepared for rest, but the lessons of the day remained alive in their minds. Riley's role as sniper, observer, and tactician had defined the engagement and ensured its successful outcome. She had emerged from the smoke, faced chaos with clarity, and turned potential disaster into victory. The battlefield had been conquered, but the experience would remain, shaping every future decision, every action, and every mission she would face alongside her team. As dawn approached over the distant ridges, Riley looked back one final time, committing the valley, the battle, and every moment of courage and precision to memory. The mission was complete, the Rangers were safe, and the lessons endured. In the quiet aftermath, Riley understood that the greatest victories were not only in survival, but in the clarity, discipline, and precision that allowed them to prevail against overwhelming odds. The valley, now silent and secure, stood as a lasting testament to courage, skill, and the unyielding focus of a sniper who had emerged from the smoke to change the course of battle.